It's Reflection Tuesday for June 9th, 2020. In today's short gospel in Matthew, Jesus talks about being the salt of the earth. In Jesus' day, if someone said you were the salt of the earth, that was a huge compliment. That's because salt was highly valued, so much so that it was used in sacrifices to God. It was considered the purest of gifts, coming from the sun and the sea. So saltiness in a Christian is a sign of purity. But what does that really mean? The most obvious quality of salt is taste. It adds flavor to things. So what are some foods that would be terrible without salt? Green beans, French fries, potato chips. Christian saltiness is to life what salt is to food. It adds flavor to the lives of those we touch, especially those who are pretty close to running out of salt themselves. Also, salt was the most common preservative. It kept things from going bad, so it preserves from corruption. It preserves from decay. In the same way, your spiritual salt, your faith, acts like a preservative, guarding against the decay of evil in the world. It guards against your own spiritual decay. The Christian who is the salt of the earth has a certain pure, antiseptic influence on life. They keep things from going bad, from being corrupted. Their presence in the world, in their church, in their neighborhood, in their family, often defeats corruption. And because they're visible, they're an example of good for others to follow. Now, Jesus says that when salt loses its saltiness, you might as well throw it underfoot. This is a little confusing to people who write Bible commentaries because in reality, salt never really loses its taste, but it could lose its effectiveness. Here's what Jesus means by throwing salt underfoot. Palestinian ovens were built outside the house. They were built of stone on a base of tiles. In order to spread the heat evenly in the oven, a really thick layer of salt was placed under the tiles. But after a length of time, the salt broke down and lost its ability to evenly distribute the heat. So the stones had to be removed, then the dead, ineffective salt would be removed and used to fill potholes in the road. It became useless for the transfer or retention of heat, so it's thrown underfoot. Your faith is like spiritual salt. If it loses its saltiness, it can no longer spread the heat. It can no longer spread the gospel by example or otherwise. We're meant to be the salt of the earth. Jesus said it. I think he was telling the truth. We're meant to spread the heat of the gospel, to bring purity and good and radiance to life. So on a scale from 1 to 10, how salty is your salt? If Jesus says you are the salt of the earth, how much salt is enough? Peace be with you. Stay healthy. I'll see you next week when we'll talk about loving your enemy.